All right. Hello. Good morning and good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. I'm Yi. I'm a girl advisor at the Adolescent Girls Advisory Committee. We call it AGAC, of the Adolescent Girls Investment Plan, AGIP. Thank you very much for joining us today, and a very happy International Youth Day to all of you. So today I will be the co-facilitator for today's webinar alongside Ms. Pooja, the Youth Engagement and Advocacy Specialist at AGIP. And before we dive in, let's just get all of you set up. Please, next slide. And this session is available in 3 languages. As you can see, English, French, and Spanish. And if you want to switch to your preferred language, kindly check the little globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom and choose your own language. And at any point during the event, if you have any problems with the interpretation, please highlight the issue through the chat, and the AGIP colleagues here will take care of it. Could you please move to the next slide? And safety is also our top priority for AGIP, and we ask all of the participants to uphold our values of engagement, including respect, empathy, and mindfulness. Please note that this event is being recorded and will be uploaded on the AGIP YouTube account, as well as amplified through other social media channels. So just as we had highlighted in the registration form, the registering for and joining this event means you are consenting to the possibility of your thoughts and contribution being featured as part of the post-event application. And please refrain from sharing personal information that might put you or anyone at risk. And if at any point you feel uncomfortable or have concerns, please reach out to Ms. Pooja, who will also be our safeguarding focal point for today's event. And her email ID is now shared in the chat. And we hope to create a very safe and respectful and supportive space for everyone here today. Next slide, please. And for today, we have 3 main sections. We will start with a very quick Zoom productivity to get to know all of you. And we will launch a very beautiful handbook capturing all key celebrations and lessons from the Adolescent Girls Advisory Committee journey with the reflections from our girl advisor and members. And then would love to engage with you all in the Q&A section. And we also have a very surprise announcement at the end of this call, which we are super excited about. So please do stay with us until the end. Next slide, please. And now we would love to know more about you. And we have some quick questions for you. So let's just get started. All right, so for the first question, we would love to hear more about you. Please tell us your name, your organization, and country you are joining us in this chat book. And we can spend around 30 seconds for this, 30 seconds to 1 minute for this. So maybe I can start first. So I'm Nhi, I'm Girl Advisor with AGIP, and I'm 24 and I'm from Vietnam. Waiting for everyone for the response. Hi, Tegila. Hi, Michaela. We also have Sophia. Hi, Pooja. Hi. So many people are joining with us today. Super excited. Yeah, please just go ahead. Hello, Angelica. Hi, Dorothy. Hi, Nikki. So glad to have you here today. Thanks so much for joining us. Hi, Puriti. Hi, Amayo. Hi, Timijan. Isabella, Grace, Rosie, so many people joining. Thank you very much. Just go ahead and share your information. So welcome everyone. It's really wonderful to see so many of you joining us from different organizations and countries. I'm so excited to for us to learn and connect with each other during this webinar. And for the next question, next slide, please. For the next question, you will see a Zoom poll and you will see it pop up on the screen. And the question is very basic, which is to what extent are the adolescent girls engaged in decision-making process of the organization? Are they excluded, informed, or consulted? Or is the organization co-deciding, or are your space led by girls? We can spend around 30 seconds or 1 minute for this. All right, can we see the result? Wow, exciting. You can see that 18% said excluded, 23% say informed, 55% say consulted, and the last one, 27% is girl-led. Super excited for that, for this result. Thank you very much for participating in this Zoom poll activity. We are very much delighted to see such diversity in the room. All right, next slide, please. So just quickly, the four options we presented in the previous question were just a more simplified way to talk about inclusion of girls in decision-making processes. But here is the whole Roger Hat ladder of children participation, as you can see in the screen, how exactly the model looks like. And you can see it's on the top of the screen, and it talks about two main zones. The first one is participation, and the second one is non-participation, and so various level in them. And also on this screen, you can also see that the ladder is only one way to look at child and youth participation. And there are so many more models that are applicable to participation of adolescent girls, youth, and any other demographic that you are trying to include in your decision-making space and share or shape power too. And these models show different ways to understand and strengthen participation in various ways. Next slide, please. The reason why I'm talking about this child and youth participation models is to share that in how AGIP has implemented the Adolescent Girls Advisory Committee, and it's a combination of all of these models. And at AGAC, the goal was to climb up the ladder of participation that is more from exclusions of girls in decision-making space to a place where decision can be co-created with or led by girls, while also enabling our leadership and agency in the process. And in our webinar in December 2024 last year, we invited girl leaders from three different girl advisory model, including AGIP, Empower, and Global Fund for Women, bringing diverse ways in which AGACs can be designed and executed. And you will see another reference to that later in the code today. Right, so next slide, please. And but before we launch the handbook, I would like to invite a very special member to do the opening intervention. And I would like to invite Miss Joy Zawadi, the co-chair of AGIP board and the executive director of Akili Data. Welcome, Joy. So Joy, you have been
Thank
with
you.
AGIP for the past 3 years, and currently you are a board member of AGIP, and you also mentor AGIP Girl Advisors, right? And engage with youth board members. So before we deep dive into the AGAC story today, we would love to hear your reflections on the importance of the intergenerational leaderships and sharing the decision-making power with girls, especially in the context where we are seeing more global advocacy space, make promises towards gender equality and girls' rights, and but equally seeing the exclusion of girls from such space and rollbacks on the promises already made by the world leaders. Would love to hear more from you, Joy.
All right, thank you so much, Nee. It's such an honor to be part of this conversation. And right, yes, to jump right into your question, I think intergenerational leadership is really, really important, especially in the times that we live in, because first and foremost, knowledge, expertise is not a monopoly of any generation. And in our work with AGIP and also through our work in Akilidada, we have a saying that girls are experts in their lives. And so it's really, really important to have their voices and their representation on decision-making tables, because a lot of them do have even solutions to the challenges that they face, and have a unique view, which if it's not on the decision-making table, then decisions will either be blind or not necessarily holistic. But the other reason why it's really important to have intergenerational leadership is we can't have leaders of tomorrow if we don't invest in them today. So it's also a space to allow girls and young women to exercise their leadership skills, to exercise their insights, because they do have agency. And as I mentioned before, they do have that knowledge. And so for me, if I'm to advise any mentors, allies, organization on just on the need to support girls in intergenerational leadership, I would say first and foremost, it's really important to create a space for authentic relationships, is to recognize that there will be power dynamics, right? Even for experienced adults, if you're walking into a room and you're engaging with, let's say, the president of a certain country, right? There's that power dynamic, but it's really, really important for us to create a space where the power dynamics are leveled and there's room for authenticity, there's room for vulnerability. The other thing is it's really, really critical to create a space for mutual respect. So not coming into that room assuming that you know everything. And especially from the continent and the country I come from, there's always this perception that I'm more experienced than you. I've seen the sun earlier than you. So, but it's really important to make sure that there's creating a space for that mutual respect. And most critically, creating a space for mutual learning and appreciating that even as a mentor, there is something that you will learn. I always give this example. A few years back, we were running a summit and engaging with adolescents, and they said to us, anyone who works in sexual reproductive health and rights and menstrual health assumes that reusable pads are the solution for all girls. And yet it's not, right? You need to take into account the context. And that information really came from the girls. And they said, you need to take into account my context. Do I have access to water? Do I even want to use these pads? And so acknowledging that they have that knowledge is something that's really, really important, and also appreciating that transfer of knowledge is not only from the older to the younger, but it's across generations, acknowledging that, everybody has a unique experience, perspectives, strengths that they bring to the table. And so just have that listening ear. And yeah, also just recognizing that in the next 50 years, a lot of the older generation will not be here. So we need to make sure that we entrust the generation that will be here to actually lead. And so it's important to create that space. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joy. That was super inspiring and powerful. And I think it really is such an honor for all of us, the Girl Advisors, to have the opportunity to work with you and all of the AG board members over the past 2 years. So thank you very much. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your time and wisdom today. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, so now we come to another exciting part of the webinars. So while Olivia brings the handbook up on the screen, please note that Pooja and I will be tag teaming for this launch, where I will speak to the experience of Girl Advisors and Pooja will speak to the AGIP side of things. So launching this AGAC Handbook, especially on the International Youth Day. It is so special for me, I have to say, as I was having the opportunity to co-create this with my fellow Girl Advisors and Pooja, of course, condensing our 2 years of journey into just a few pages, trying to not just share the practical aspect and of do's and don'ts, but also our experiences from when we started and when we closed. And this is certainly a piece that I will hold close to myself. And I really hope that reading these handbooks will bring you or as much insight and inspiration as we found in creating it together. And I do want to quickly highlight that Egypt is also working on creating the French and Spanish version of this handbook. So, but it will take a little bit of time. So, yeah, please bear with it. And thank you very much for your patience. Pooja, over to you.
Thank you, Nee. Can we have the next slide, please? And thank you, Nee, for bringing the event so far. You're doing an absolute brilliant job and we're loving it. And thank you, Joy. It was really brilliant hearing you speak as well. So obviously, we want to start by introducing what AGIP is or who AGIP is. And AGIP is the short form, as some of you would probably know, for the Adolescent Girls Investment Plan. And it is a global intergenerational feminist coalition working with and for adolescent girls. And the reason why we exist, especially in the current day and age, is because of the increasing global threats to adolescent girls and their rights, the lack of accountability from duty bearers, and low evidence uptake and sharing within the sector. And within this context, Egypt's vision is a world where girls have the voice, choice, and agency to determine their own futures. And together with our 18 partner organizations from across the globe, we drive political commitment, strengthen accountability, and promote evidence informed investment to create positive impact for adolescent girls in all their diversity. Next slide, please.
In the Adolescent Girls Advisory Committee, the AGACs, launched by AGIP in March 2023 to share the decision-making power with adolescent girls. And the first cohort, which I'm a part of, was made up of 12 girl leaders aged 10 and 24 from 10 different countries, representing diverse backgrounds and levels of experience. And we met monthly to review the AGIP progress, provide feedback on projects, and paid special attention to building capacity and connection. And we also elected 3 girl advisors to be on the AGIP board, creating a direct bridge between the committee and senior leaders. And our engagement was a very good balance of safeguarding, multilingual access, mentorship, and intergenerational leadership to ensure our voice truly inform Egypt's work at all levels. Next slide, please. Super. And here you all see 12 of us on the screen. And when we started 2 years ago, And it really brings back memories from the first few calls where we knew nobody but AGIP created a very safe space for all of us to not just interact with each other, but truly learn from and grow from each other, I have to say. And the bubbles on the screen, as you can see, are how we introduce ourselves at the beginning of the journey. And all of the cool illustration here represent the great time and we all had while learning about each other cultures, and in doing so, creating a sisterhood over time that we found rest and inspiration in. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Nee. And obviously, like the next slide is about the AGAC best practice. What did we learn in the last 2.5 years? And we have it here condensed for all of you. So we started with a broad plan of sharing decision-making power with adolescent girls, and co-creation was at the center of it. Now, when we say co-creation at the beginning, it truly means co-creation, and it can look very blurry and vague at the beginning. But with constant feedback and a lot of hard work and a lot of consultative and co creation work with our adolescent girls advisors, AGAC engagement became a very intentional and productive space for all of us who were involved, both like AGIP and girl advisors as well. So, in terms of the best practices emerging from our experience, we have categorized them into two big themes. And I can tell you, like, the space is not enough for me to talk about it, but here we have it in brief. The first is inclusion and valuing young people, and the second is centering joy and well being. So, on inclusion and valuing young people, right from the beginning, even while drafting the terms of reference and putting out AGAC applications, we aimed to make every step inclusive. That meant that we were working on having clear terms of reference and providing all information in all three languages of our AGAC operations, which is French, Spanish, and English. It also included mindful budgeting, thinking ahead about the real costs, which included time, energy, finances, and allocating that internally. It also included offering both financial and non financial support for every girl advisor so that they could engage without worrying about out of pocket expenses and easily access our opportunity. And this was entirely remote. We also created space for a lot of intergenerational connections with our board and colleagues through board member mentoring calls, like you just heard from Joy, and also invites to the girl advisors to join some of our internal program and ideation calls in voluntary capacity if they had interest and capacity to join and learn from it and contribute towards it. And throughout the way, we tried to ensure that AGAC was not a silo or a separate committee just sitting on the side while AGIP continued working. In terms of living our value of co-creation, from shaping monthly call agendas together, brainstorming on AGIP's flagship advocacy projects, rethinking timelines when feedback called for deeper engagement, and reviewing and launching AGIP's latest 2025 to 2027 strategy focused on action and accountability for girls, we ensured AGAC's work informed AGIP's work at all level, like Nee just mentioned. And also, like throughout the engagement, we kept the feedback loop alive. Like at the end of each meeting, we had like rating and reflections, and we constantly evolved with every single interaction. We had need-based check-in calls, and we also had 6 monthly and annual reporting processes. And they may sound like a lot of work, but it was like primarily just like nice reflections, putting them together, and then also creating spaces during the meeting to build on to each other's reflections as well. Now, for the second category on centering joy and well being, this wasn't just an add on, it is at the heart of how we approach engagement with young people at AGIP. For this, we actively ensured a lot of conversations and reflections on balancing ambition with what is realistic and doable, making sure commitments stayed fair and manageable, and also starting every call with something fun, which soon became second nature in how we connected and collaborated at AGAC. In terms of our commitment to AGAC as a model that can create positive change, we organized a webinar in December 2025. Nee briefly mentioned it earlier, but the reason why I'm bringing that up here again is we had three different AGAC mandates. So the mandate that AGIP's adolescent girl advisors have were very different from what empower the Emerging Markets Foundation, their AGAC has, was very different from what the Girl Advisors of Global Fund for Women had. And it was really nice to bring all of these three AGACs together and be represented by their girl advisors and summarize the best practices together. So what you see on the screen on the right side, the light green section, we have three quotes from the speaker, but we are also hyperlinking the recommendations from that webinar, which is also like builds on to what we're also presenting here today. So do check that out as well, in addition to this handbook. And can we have the next slide up, please? So, challenges and lessons learned. Like, of course, when we say that there were a lot of things to celebrate, we also know that there were a lot of things that we were trying to constantly resolve and grow from. So, while we are proud of AGAC's achievements, we've been just as intentional about identifying and addressing our challenges. At AGIP, we do not consider these as setbacks, but opportunities to adapt, and we've been tackling them together with our girl advisors to ensure that it actually works for all of us. So first one is balancing engagement and well-being. Now, all of our 12 AGAC members are very highly committed individuals, which is absolutely amazing and a pleasure to work with. But each is also on a unique journey. You heard that we had somebody as young as 10, and we had somebody who is more experienced, who's 20 plus in terms of age, and also is bringing a lot of experience from global spaces. So managing diverse aspirations within a limited time commitment can be tricky, especially while respecting their academic and personal obligations. Now, as much as there is enthusiasm for greater involvement from all of our girl advisors, it would practically mean that we would need to transition to a part-time internship or a part-time employment model, which is currently beyond AGIP's operational capacity. And that's a real consideration when we talk about these bodies and the aspirations emerging out of that. Then the second one is space and complexity. We proactively offered opportunities to our girl advisors to join internal working group meetings, task force meeting interactions with board. And these were all optional in nature, only if they had like time and interest in doing that. But even with like that kind of things being optional in nature and all support being provided, the pace and volume of information can still be very overwhelming. So we have tried to remain mindful, not to overburden them, prioritizing well-being alongside meaningful participation. We continue to adapt formats and expectations regularly to ensure that their engagement is empowering and not exhausting. So third is language and accessibility, and the next one to it is time and budget for multilingual engagement. Now, on a quick glance, these may look like the same point, but they're truly not. They are layered and they build onto each other. One is about how, even with the constant communication in three languages supported with simultaneous interpretation, one of our advisors did report feeling relatively less connected in comparison due to language differences. And as a key takeaway, and based on feedback and collective reflections with the girl advisors, what we've decided going forward is to ensure that there are at least like 2 fluent speakers per language if we are going to make it multilingual. So that's one part of it. The second part is the time and budget required for multilingual engagement. And our girl advisors did recommend that AGIP should be more inclusive and expand to more languages. And on that, as much as we really want to do that, we did have a very realistic conversation with our girl advisors, drawing up the budget and showing how much it would cost, not just in terms of like the technical aspect of interpretation, but also in terms of the amount of time that goes into ensuring that all of the communication is all the time in 3 languages. So we had a very honest conversation around that. And at this point, we're truly limited by technology and resource in expanding to more languages. And that's, again, like another consideration when we hear certain spaces opting only for certain languages. And then the last point is on structural inequalities. So we also acknowledge that not all girls have the same access to devices, internet, or safe spaces. For some, even regular attendance is hard. To tackle that, we are committed to funding community-based mentors to bridge those gaps, support learning, safety, and consistent participation for our girl advisors. And here, in this particular case, it's not just about finances. We also ensured a parallel journey for those community-based mentors to ensure that they first understood and felt confident about what AGIP is, what AGAC is, what are we trying to do, so that they can then go back and support girl advisors in real time in their communities. It also helped us feel more confident, as this two-way engagement with the community-based mentors also gave us more insights into the advisor's learning style, aspirations, and real-time challenges, and we constantly adapted our engagement based on that. So overall, we feel that working on solving these challenges have certainly made AGIP's AGAC a very strong approach and have impacted AGIP in many positive ways. Can we have the next slide, please? All right, so again, like another beautiful slide, and you see two parts to the story here, impact of AGAC on AGIP and then impact of AGAC on girl advisors. So I'll speak to the AGAC side of things, as you know. So given our commitment to launching AGAC with the intention to ensure decision-making power with girls, and with having implemented it with an intentional approach, we have many successes in how AGAC has impacted AGIP. First, it has shifted our funding priorities. In our 2025 to 2027 strategy, we have committed more resources to support in-person participation of girl and youth advisors, especially in global advocacy and policy spaces, which is where AGIP is the most active. Second, it has changed our organizational practices, and this has required us to simplify safeguarding process and more proactively create youth-friendly materials for each and every engagement that we've had. Third, it has made our decision making more transparent and co created with girls, because girl advisors now sit on AGIP board as full board members, sharing power over all decisions, including financial allocations and directly influencing our strategic direction. And then fourth, it has strengthened our girl engagement model. We have, as I just shared in the last two slides, worked a lot on constantly adapting our approach and really hearing and responding to what the advisors are recommending us. And that has made our processes a lot more effective and inclusive. And finally, by openly sharing our AGAC practices, as we're doing right now, we've done this in the past as well, we've tried to model best practice, sparking more interest and inspiration in the peer organization. And for doing so, we have been invited to deliver both internal training and external facing guest speaker interventions in various platforms to talk about AGAC and our meaningful girl and youth engagement practices. So I've spoken a lot, but hopefully, like all of it, gave you more context of why we are so excited to be launching this today on International Youth Day. And for the next part, I will pass back the mic to Yuni.
Thank you, Pooja. And regarding the impact of the Adolescent Girls Advisory Committee for Good Advisor, as you can see, being a part of the AGAC has helped us grow both personally and professionally, truly, because we have gained the skills in public speaking, the facilitation, the collaboration across cultures, and time management, and especially even the project leadership. And also through the mentorship, multilingual teamwork, and global advocacy opportunities, we have built the confidence, empathy, and a deeper understanding of adolescent girls' issues worldwide as well. And most importantly, AGAC has fostered the cross-country friendships, the solidarity between us, and a shared commitment to creating change. Can we have the next slide? Super, thank you. So this is another slide that made us super emotional when we first saw the visual draft, because compared to our introductions at the beginning of the journey, what you saw earlier, this is us at the end of the journey with our final reflections on how the AGAC has impacted us both personally and professionally. And our December 2024 call was full of reflections and celebration individually for ourselves, as girl advisors, but also for each other as we have closely witnessed how other grew well. And from our monthly calls to global advocacy events, AGAC has been really a space for all of us where we learn, we take the lead and support each other. And our reflections show the increase in confidence, stronger communication skill, and awareness of coalition work and global policy space, as you can see. And we have also built a sisterhood across borders, learning to listen without judgment and respect the cultural differences, and also to balance activism with well-being. And why our official engagement closed in December last year, based on our financial feedback and interest, 9 of us have already shown the interest for the voluntary extension of 5 months, where we have the opportunity to co-create the knowledge transfer documents like this handbook, and also to reveal and approve AGIP's new strategy on from 2025 to 2027, and also to explore the alumni engagement pathways, and also to envision the next cohort engagement we are super excited about. So in words, can we have the next slide? All right, so in words, I can say from a fellow girl advisor at our AGAC, Dashana, uh, inclusion of adolescent girls in decision making, it's not just a nice to have, it's a must have. Indeed, right? The AGAC model showed that when girls have space and voice and influence, they have really shaped the stronger policies, programs, and advocacy. Sure, if this work, you can agree with me or not that this work really takes time, resources, and commitment, but the impact is long lasting, and not just for the girls, but also for the organization we work with and for the communities we serve. And I'm very pleased to share that AGIPS remains committed to intergenerational leadership, power sharing, and creating a future where girls everywhere can take the lead. And we'll launch the second cohort of AGAC very soon. So, and because there will be certainly the next cohort, this are the hope for me and my peers from cohort number 1. And I will read out a few here. Vanessa, Sian, Dashna, Jimena, Misati, Rushna, Luisa, and me, Nhi. Yeah, I'm feeling very emotional right now when seeing all of this illustration and talking about all of the work we have done. Yeah, just want to say thank you very much for the AGIP and all the advisor and also the board members and also even the interpreter for supporting us over the past 2 years. Yeah, next slide, please. And over to you, Pooja.
Thank you so much, Nee. And of course, like emotional on our end as well. This was our first experimental cohort, and safe to say that it has been a great learning journey for us and very reassuring to hear all of your reflections. For those listening and are feeling excited about the next cohort here, as Nee mentioned, they've curated like a nice slide with their hopes for the next cohort, which we feel will be inspiring for those who are potential candidates for it. Can we have the next slide, please? So thank you so much, Nee, for sharing the AGAC story with me. The project is very close to my heart, as you can tell by my excitement. And it has been an absolute pleasure working with all of the girl advisors for the past 2.5 years now. At this point, I do want to give a very big shout out to Pooja. Not myself, although I think that would be okay too, but to Pooja Dhingra, who is the art director for this handbook and put our plain text version of our story and our emotions and our expectations from this handbook into a beautiful story through illustrations. I also want to give a big shout out to Zadie and Yvette, who have been our interpreters throughout AGAC engagement for the last 2.5 years, and have made all of our meeting spaces very inclusive. Thank you so much. And also, if you're interested to learn more about AGAC, you can always reach out to me. You've seen my ID pop up in the chat multiple times now, but I will share it again. And with that, I will hand back to Nee, because this is not the end. We have more reflections, and then we also want to hear from all of you later on. So back to you, Nee.
Thank you so much, Pooja and Olivia, for putting the slide back. So that was the official launch of our AGAC Handbook. Super excited. And now we are thrilled to invite some reflections from our peers and allies. And please, can we briefly have the slide? Yeah, okay. So we have Luisa and Misati, my fellow girl advisor from cohort number 1, who were also on the co-creation team for this handbook. And we have Anya Gass and the policy and advocacy lead, meaningful girl and youth engagement from Plan International, and Gloria Micheni, the partner learning associate from the Amplify Girls, joining us today. Welcome to all of you. And I do have some question for each one of you. Can we see you on the screen? You can just say hi to everyone. Yeah, our beautiful speaker. So, okay, I think first I will start with Luisa, my fellow girl advisor at AGAC. So, Luisa, you have been deeply involved in the co-creating the AGAC experience and its various projects, including this handbook. So could you share what meaningful engagement has looked like for you throughout this journey and what it means to co-create this handbook with the other girl advisors? Over to you, Luisa.
Sí, muchas gracias. Bueno, primero que nada, buenos días desde México a todas las personas que nos acompañan el día de hoy. Voy a regresar el tiempo cuando conocí la convocatoria de AGIP en noviembre de 2022 para formar parte de este comité asesor de niñas y adolescentes. Gracias a IPPF, que es mi asociación, pues mandó un boletín informativo con esta información. Y recuerdo que el principal motivo por el que quise aplicar fue que en su descripción mencionaba que las niñas tendríamos la oportunidad de decidir de forma colectiva los procesos de gobernanza. Entonces, pues era la primera vez que yo veía en un alto nivel de gobernanza se tomaba en cuenta a las niñas para tener espacios de decisión reales. Ya cuando me informaron que fui aceptada, me sentí profundamente feliz de pertenecer a algo tan grande, pero al conocer a todas las niñas del comité, pues con diferentes contextos políticos y socioculturales de cada región del mundo, pues me di cuenta de que no era algo grande, sino que era algo inmenso y pues también extraordinario. No era el tamaño del proyecto, sino pues la fuerza y el compromiso de cada una de las niñas integrantes. También pues siempre me sentí acompañada, lo más importante, me sentí muy segura gracias a Puya. La verdad es que Puya fue nuestro punto focal y pues descubrí que no solamente pues éramos voces adicionales para los proyectos, que también nuestras voces generaban cambios positivos y concretos. Y con el tiempo pues pude reconocer gustos, hábitos, sueños también de mis compañeras, de las niñas, y pues construimos confianza para compartir lo que pasaba en nuestras comunidades y también cómo nos sentíamos. Cada una de nosotras pues llegó a liderar las sesiones que tuvimos, a producirlas y pues juntas recabar materiales para los webinarios, ponencias y pues incluso las conferencias que tuvieron oportunidad a nivel internacional. También cuando se habló de que el proyecto podría tener nuevas fases con otras niñas en generaciones siguientes, pues me emocionó imaginar que todo el conocimiento que yo adquirí también podría ser oportunidad para ellas, porque pues el comité no solamente forma líderes, también cambia pensamientos, transforma comunidades y sobre todo pues cambia vida. De acuerdo a la co-creación, ahora les pregunto, ¿no? Que cuántas veces hemos intentado resolver un problema pensando solas o desde nuestra casa y escuela. Pues la co-creación nos invita a salir de ese aislamiento, a construir soluciones colectivas con un impacto más grande. Y no se trata solo de trabajar en equipo, sino de integrar todas las experiencias de todas las niñas, todas las voces y todas las vivencias, para que nadie y ninguna comunidad pues se quede fuera. La co-creación se basa en escuchar activamente, en no dar por hecho lo que las personas necesitan, sino descubrir escuchando y observando. Y pues implica valorar la diversidad, porque las mejores ideas nacen cuando pues estamos reunidas con perspectivas distintas y pues también incluso contradictorias. Y pues de acuerdo a esto de la co-creación, un gran ejemplo pues es de este libro de mano, el Handbook, que pues no se trató únicamente de aportar ideas diferentes, sino de darle sentido y coherencia a lo trabajado a lo largo de los años, porque fue una labor de 2 años, más de 2 años. Logramos que pues, el material fuera atractivo, claro, útil para niñas y adolescentes. Y en apenas 10 páginas, que es lo que tiene este libro, resumimos un trabajo que demuestra que incluir a las juventudes en el órgano de gobierno más alto de cualquier organización no solo es un acto simbólico, sino que es una estrategia poderosa para fortalecerlas. Porque cuando las niñas participamos, las organizaciones crecen. Y porque cuando las niñas decidimos, el cambio es más profundo. Las niñas no somos el futuro, somos el presente y somos muy poderosas. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Luisa. Thank you very much for your sharing. I think and also thank you very much for your active engagement over the past 2 years. I think you have inspired me and all of us a lot. And yeah, also thank you very much for bringing your passion and the ideas to co-create this handbook as well. Thank you again, Luisa. And may I also invite another fellow girl advisor, Miss Sati? Hi, Miss Sati. It's good to see you again. So, Miss Sati,
Hi,
based on
hi
your
everyone.
experience, hi. So, based on your experience, Miss Sati, what best practice that or the recommendations that do you want to highlight to the allies and the organization who want to meaningfully include girls in decision-making processes through the structures like our AGAC, and what should they keep in mind to make it impactful and inclusive, Miss Sari?
Thank you for the introduction and the question, Ni. My name is Shali Mora Misati, a proud member of the Girl Advisory Committee, one from the first cohort under the Adolescent Girls Advisory Plan. I am also a youth advocate. I am passionate about SRHR, digital inclusion, and gender equity. So when we talk about including girls in decision making, we must move beyond symbolism. Inclusion is not just about having a seat at the table, it's about having the power to shape these conversations, influencing the agenda, and seeing that our ideas as young people are implemented. Based on my experience with AGAC and other youth-led platforms, I want to highlight 4 key recommendations for allies and organizations who are serious about making inclusion real and impactful. So the first is to create safe, girl-centered spaces. Girls must feel comfortable speaking. Girls must feel comfortable to speak, to challenge, and to imagine. This means building trust, offering pre-engagement support, and actively removing power dynamics that silence their voices. In AGAC, by our collaboration with Pooja and the other girl advisors, we have created a safe environment where everyone is able to share their ideas and their thoughts. So that's the first point. Second, we need to recognize that girls are experts of their lived experiences. Our insights are not just stories, they're grounded in reality. So when I come here and talk about period poverty in Kenya or access to digital tools, it's not theory, it's lived knowledge that should be used in determining how policies are made, how policies are going to be implemented in the society. Third, we need to build accountability loops. Inclusion should not stop at consultation. We need to see how our contributions made a difference, what worked, what didn't work, and why this did not work. That transparency builds confidence and trust in the process. If we came together as girl advisors and said that in this organization, we need safe digital practices, and in the next meeting, we have an impactful session on safe digital practices, that is accountability of you said this and we did this. And finally, investing in girls' capacity, not just their presence. It's not enough to invite us to the room. Equip us with skills, resources, and opportunities to lead. Invest and fund solutions led by girls. Have faith in our ability to lead. There are a lot of girl-led solutions out there that are not recognized enough. So to truly include girls is to move from presence to power, from being heard to being resourced, from participation to influence. And AGAC is truly showing us the way. So I hope that this becomes the norm, not the exception, where girls will be moved from presence to power. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sati, for the very, very practical and inspiring recommendation. And just for your information, Ms. Sati also a very active member at AGAC for the last 2 years. So thank you very much, Ms. Sati, for constantly inspiring me for the journey. Yeah. And for now on, I also would like to invite Miss Anya from Plan International. So Miss Anya, from your experience of supporting similar advisory bodies, so what is your key takeaways from the Adolescent Girls Advisory Committee Handbook, and what has really worked or not worked for Plan International when it comes to engaging girls meaningfully through similar structures? Miss Anya.
Thanks so much, Ni, for that question. And thanks to AGIP for inviting Plan International to be part of this really exciting event. As Ni said, my name is Anya Gass. I am Plan International's Policy and Advocacy Lead for Meaningful Youth Engagement. And as Plan International, we're on a journey, like I think many of us are, to become a youth-centered organization, putting young people and their voices at the heart of everything we do. So this includes involving young people in our governance through various types of advisory bodies and reference groups, but it also means partnering with young people to drive our external advocacy. And that last bit is really a key part of my role with Plan. So you asked about my reflections on the AGAC handbook. One of the things that I really love about this handbook is that list of best practices that Pooja presented. And I just want to highlight two of them. They're all so relevant. And I think we could talk at length about all of them, but just two of them that jumped out to me in our experience as Plan. First one is language inclusion. So we've really been investing heavily in this over the last few years. In a world that is very English driven, and I recognize a particular privilege as an English native speaker, we have really been working to make our groups multilingual to the extent possible. And this means hiring interpreters for each meeting, not just events, but also the meetings, making sure our PowerPoints are translated and our surveys, even sending messages in our WhatsApp group in all of those languages. And it's not easy. It takes additional time and interpretation is costly, but it is something that needs to be budgeted for. And this is my key message to all of the allies in the room. We need to be budgeting for this and taking into account the staff time required to make sure that that girls from all regions are able to participate in these types of groups. The other piece that I'd like to highlight is financial and non-financial support. Through the groups that we've been leading, we've been experimenting with different forms of support. Traditionally, the financial support to girls and young women in these types of groups for us would consist of covering their costs. So for example, covering data packages, transportation, participation in conferences. And the other support is more of a non-financial nature, so mentorship, capacity building, networking, etc. But we have been experimenting with a sort of micro grant model where young people receive a small amount of money at the end of their engagement with the group to start their own initiative. And we've realized that this is an important way for them to be kind of launched into the next phase of their advocacy journey, and a way for us to really invest in them as advocates. The final thing I'd like to highlight is in terms of the challenges and lessons learned that were presented in the handbook. And I think we've experienced many similar challenges as the ones highlighted there. And one of them that I can speak to is the issue of the pace and complexity of engagement. As I said, part of my job is supporting young people to engage in external advocacy, in particular in global conferences such as CSW or UNGA. And in these spaces, the complexity and fast-moving nature of the processes is often challenging enough for us as adults to navigate, let alone for young people who might have limited experience with these types of processes. We've tested various ways of involving young people in a way that's meaningful for them in terms of the level of technicality and knowledge required, but also wanting to respect their time and being aware of the return on investment for them. I'm not sure yet that we have found the right solution, but we're continuing to work on it and really taking on the feedback that we're getting from young people on that. I'd like to conclude by saying that the reality is that decision-making processes, whether it's at the global or local level, are not built for young people. That is the reality. And I would also even venture to say that many of our organizations are not built for young people. Again, we are on a journey as Plan, and many of us are, but we are working with a legacy of very adult-centric structures. So I think we have two monumental challenges in that regard. First of all is changing our own ways of working to allow us to partner with young people as equals, including by putting adequate resources to make that happen. And secondly, trying to influence the structures around us to be more responsive to the voices of and realities of young people, so that when they do try to participate, they're able to actually meaningfully engage and have an impact. And I love what Misati just said, is that we need to move from girls having presence to them having power. And that's what this is really about. As I said, we are on a journey as Plan International, but we are so committed to engaging girls and young people meaningfully across all of our work and advocating for a world that actually listens to what they're saying. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tanya, and for your insight. And just want to share with you that I was also a youth advisor at the Plan International Vietnam Youth Advisory Committee in 2020 and 2022. And I think I've been super familiar with the Plan approach in meaningful girls and youth engagement. And I've been always appreciate the Plan efforts in this. And we look forward to keeping having your continued leadership in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Nee.
And last but not the least, I would like to invite Miss Gloria Micheni from Amplify Girls. Hi, Gloria. So, Gloria, from your vantage point at Amplify Girls and your experience with Amplified 2024 Gold Fellowship, right? So what insights that or practice from the AGAC Handbook do you think that are most important to carry forward, and how exactly is Amplify Girls promoting the intergenerational leadership? Gloria?
Okay, thank you, Nee. Hi, everyone. My name is Gloria Micheni. I work with Amplify Girls as a partner learning associate. Amplify Girls is a network of 40 community-driven organizations in East and Southern Africa that seek to work towards building a girls agency. I had the opportunity of leading the pilot program, the fellowship program in the year 2024. And I will share some of the best practices that I have after interacting with the AGAC that I feel organization implementing programs, fellowship programs, targeting adolescent girls could borrow from. The first one would be ensuring there is equity in selection. When as NGOs, as we run fellowship programs or committees that target adolescent girls, it's really important to ensure that we include girls from the underrepresented community communities and also from the marginalized communities. So I can give an example from Amplify Girls. So for Amplify Girls, we work with CDOs that work with girls from especially the marginalized communities, rural areas, but we also work with some from who implement programs in the urban areas. But what we do for that program, we request our partners to nominate girls that they feel like would be fit for that program, girls that they feel that they need an opportunity for their leadership skills to be developed, because otherwise they might not get that opportunity based on where they come from. And then the next key takeaway would be offering both financial and non-financial support. In order for us to ensure equity, it's just fair that we offer both financial and non-financial support for these girls, especially if you're working with girls from marginalized community. They're already at a disadvantage. Sometimes these girls want to be part of these fellowships, these programs, but they don't have, let's say in this case, a $1 to purchase data that allows them to join the virtual session. So offering financial support can be as little as offering data provision, compensating us for their time. It can also involve ensuring that the application process is free, whereby the girls don't have to pay anything to be part of this program, and also offering grants in cases where we expect the girls to implement some projects. It's really good for us to ensure that we offer some grants to the girls. And then my other key takeaway would be ensuring we put the girls at the center, the co-creation. As Joy and Misati have mentioned, girls are really the experts of their own lives. So it's fair that we ensure that we have experts on board so that they can share with us, they can give us feedback on what they feel like is working, what they feel like we should do more of. And also the co-creation ensures that the voices of the girls are heard and they're not just represented. And then my final key takeaway would be feedback and having clear feedback loops. And this means whereby the girls can share feedback with the key stakeholders, and the stakeholders actually implement the feedback that has been given to them by the girls. This ensures that they are continuously improving their programs. Sometimes it's not actually not sometimes, all the time, it's not enough to just receive feedback. It's actually more important if we act on the feedback. And maybe I can give an example from our fellowship program. Last year we had a challenge whereby some of the girls were in boarding schools, and the schools that they were in didn't have the necessary resources, or the schools didn't allow the girls to join us for the virtual sessions. That was among some of the feedback that we received, and based on that feedback, we decided to pause the rolling of the fellowship program for us to know, to go back and re-strategize, so that when we're back, the fellowship is actually inclusive and it meets the needs of all the girls. And then to respond to your second question on how Amplify Girls advocates for intergenerational leadership. So as I had mentioned earlier on, we are a network of 40 community-driven organizations. So we advocate for intergenerational leadership through the implementation of agency building programs. And in this context, agency refers to the ability of a girl to implement change in her life as well as in the society in general. We believe that by building the agentic capacity of these girls, the girls will actually become active participants and leaders in making the decisions that impact their own lives. And one way of actually doing that, we have a survey that's called the Adolescent Girls Agency Survey, that is used by organizations implementing agency building programs. They can use that survey to evaluate the effectiveness and also the impact of their programs. Thank you, Ni. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Gloria. We really appreciate you sharing the valuable insights and experience with us. Thank you very much. Have learned from that a lot too. And once again, I would like to thank all of our four incredible speakers for your sharing and reflections. And I also found myself that feeling very learn a lot and get so many inspiration from all of you. Thank you very much. It was truly, truly insightful for me and truly inspiring. And for now on, I think we are moving to another exciting session, which is the Q&A session. And I would like to give the floor back to Pooja.
Thank you so much, Nee, and big thanks to all the speakers. So by now in the session, we have heard from the AGIP co-chair. You've also heard AGAC's story and hopefully loved it as much as we do. And you've also heard from a lot of our girl advisors and allies. Now we would love to hear from all of you for this section. Do you have any questions or reflections for us? We will take both questions. We'll take appreciation, celebration, anything is welcome. You can add them to the Q&A feature. You can also add them to the chat, or you can also raise your hand and we can unmute your mic for you to share your reflections with us. So we have about 7 minutes to do this, about 10. We'll try to stretch it a bit if we have a lot of reflections coming in. But I think for this section, I would also request all of the panelists to come back on video because we may have one of the questions directed to you. So that would be nice as well. But any questions so far? And let me see if we already have something in the Q&A section. And just requesting, Gloria, can you add the AGAS platform on the chat? There's a query for that. And in the Q&A section, the first question that I see is the models of engagement were so interesting. Does AGIP have a favorite one it references? We always reference the whole pack, and the reason why we do that is because, like Nee mentioned when talking about it, it's a combination. So for AGIP, when we think about how we want to engage with young people and adolescent girls, we're not just thinking linearly in terms of how do we increase the level of participation from a point where they are just like being informed to actually where they're working with us for the information to be girl-led. But we're also thinking well-being, we're also thinking agency, we're also thinking, simplifying the process or reimagining the whole process and making it look different if it needs to be for it to be accessible. So not a single model, but a combination of it, and hopefully what we presented in AGAC as a combination that we're working on could also going forward then be presented as another model. So that's on question 1. Then the next question I have in the Q&A is great insights. Thank you for the shout out. We love that. And then the next question we have is, Anya mentioned the importance of language inclusion, and it's been really inspiring. I am wondering if you have had internal discussions around centering plain language and how we communicate, letting go of unnecessary jargon, overly technical and academic terms and concepts, and these which can exclude younger people who don't speak these languages. Can AGAC speak to plain language and how we communicate specifically? So great question. Thank you for sharing that. I think from my perspective, yes, and yes. We are definitely trying to make the language much more accessible for everybody. Like there's a notion that we say that text has to be simplified, or the papers and the policies have to be simplified for young people. But I can say, as a not so young person myself now, some of the policy negotiation documents are way too tricky. So when we work on simplifying them, it's not just for young people. It's for everybody. It's for everybody. And one of the things we are trying to do is making both the data and the recommendation very, very accessible. So in some of our recent advocacy engagements at Commission of Status for Women lately and Feminist Forum for Development lately, we are now developing just very simple 2-3 pages on what this is about, what this means, what does the latest data say that we source from our allies in the sector, from our partners, the latest evidence and stats on that. And then we just like do very simple recommendations that are very clear. So I think we say that we're making it youth friendly, but I think I truly believe that we're making it accessible for everybody. So yes, we're trying to do a lot of work internally on simplifying, but at the same time, I think there's a very fine balance. When we say simplify, we don't want it to mean that we do away with the jargon entirely, because we also want young people and people who don't access these spaces traditionally to also feel empowered to navigate these spaces, right? So if we're only communicating in plain text, but then these young people have to go and access these global advocacy spaces, hopefully more than before, the system is still working with that jargony language. So I think we're trying to balance both. How do we work on simplifying the text while still empowering young people and anybody else to access these spaces which are very restricted? So that's that. I see more questions coming up, which is very, very exciting. What kind of partnership can there possibly be? We will talk a little bit more about that shortly. How do you practically break down power dynamics in intergenerational leadership? For example, how do you do this in societies that are built on adult and make superiority over girls? That's a really good question. And then, okay, a clarification on that is male superiority. Yeah, I don't think we can address that question entirely in in the call that we have right now, but I think that's a really good question. And when you talk about power dynamics, we see it across all levels, like not just within how, for AGAC example specifically, I know you've spoken about like male superiority, but in AGAC's case here, if we talk about it, it's all women and girls here, and across like generations. We have somebody as young as 10, but we have somebody as older as 55, who's an expert and holds many board roles by now. So for this one, what we're trying to do is, I think, two-way capacity building. Usually you may have seen in a lot of spaces we highlight, capacity strengthening for young people to feel much more empowered in a space, but we also do back-end work with adult allies to ensure that they are also updating their knowledge and their skills to interact with young people as equals, and with feedback loop ongoing at the back end. Also just keeping that open and honest conversation alive and keeping the purpose of empowering girls at the center. And of course, like even within that, there are more layers and challenges. And I know to this question, because it's so interesting, maybe I can pass on to one of our other speakers as well. So Anya, do you want to jump in quickly and also respond to this question of breaking power dynamics, which is ever so present in the context that we work in?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to. And actually, what I was going to say is very similar to what you just said, in the sense that the work that we do with girls and young people, it's only it's one side of a coin, if you will. And that there needs to be a parallel investment in that whole enabling environment. And as you say, working with adults. And I think the thing is that in many contexts, there's a lot of really goodwill. A lot of people are quite keen to engage young people. It's kind of becoming a popular thing to do. But the reality is that many don't know how to do it in a meaningful way. And so we work with partners to share our best practices, our experiences, to kind of to bring everyone up to speed. And then, of course, there are those who, as this person says in the question, who perhaps are more resistant. And I think that takes that kind of ongoing long-term work to change those social norms, and that happens at so many levels. But I think that's the work that we need to be doing at the community level, at the national level, to make sure that rather than people seeing this as something antagonistic, girls against adults, girls against boys, but that it is a whole of society approach where we are working together to make sure that all humans are empowered to make decisions over their own lives.
Thank you so much, Anya, and I hope that adds a little bit more context onto the question that was asked. And yeah, even that's not enough. Like there's more layers to that. So I'm happy to chat further about it and share more resources through the follow-up email. Now, there's one more question that I would like to take up before we go to the next section. And the question is, how do you plan to involve girls who do not have regular access to the internet or devices, ensuring that their voices are also represented? And I'm very happy to say that we have already tested that through the 2 years of work that we did at AGAC that we just presented through the handbook. And the way we did it is we had 12 seats and we intentionally reserved 2 to 3 of those spaces, primarily for those girls who traditionally don't have access to these opportunities, which meant that some of our girl advisors are coming from context where they don't have devices, they don't have their email IDs, they don't have, and then also in a conflict situation or in a situation where they wouldn't necessarily directly be able to access these opportunities. So for those contexts, this is why you see AGIP recommending the method of community-based mentors so much. Like we really took feedback on that from all of the girl advisors we tested this model with or this approach with, and everybody has come back and said, yes, it works. So what we essentially do is for a community-based organization that can support an adolescent girl who will otherwise not be able to access this opportunity, we provide additional financial incentive and we run a parallel journey with them. So we compensate them for their time and we also onboard them and ensure that we are having that two-way relationship where they feel empowered and then they can go back and then support the girl advisor to engage with us. For them, it looks like engaging with us, but then going back in the community and ensuring that they can arrange laptop, they can do pre-prep, they can do debrief with the girl advisor in the community real time, and also ensure that the girl advisor is safe. There's also the stipend that is there for the girl advisor remains. So that's separate from what we give to the community-based mentors if access is an issue. And that has worked out for us, and we're committed to continue that approach going forward as well. So yeah, with that, I think we've answered most of the question. But if anybody has more questions, feel free to write them into the chat. By now, you should also have my ID, so you can also write to me anytime. Can we have the next slide up, please? All right. So just give me a minute. So yeah, on this one, as Nee mentioned, I'm actually super excited about this. As Nee mentioned, AGIP is committed to onboard the second cohort of AGAC, and that it would happen very soon. And I am super excited to share that the applications of cohort 2 are now live. Of course, I am sure you have many, many questions on who can sign up, who is eligible. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? But today's session is not about that. We will share a link in the chat where you can access all information about AGAC. Just quickly, who's eligible? Girls aged 10 to 19 associated with community-based organizations are eligible. Young women aged 20 to 24 independently are eligible to apply for this. Can we have the next slide, please? And because I'm sure everybody has like a lot of questions on this, I hope you do because it's so interesting, right? We are organizing an information session like we've done in the past, tends to work. So we are organizing an information session on 24th of August. We will share the registration link in the chat in a minute. I will do that. And this is where you can join us. We will share all key information about AGAC Cohort 2, what's the application process, who's eligible, what are the frequently asked questions, what's the eligibility criteria, what does the actual form look like. Everything will be discussed, and then you'll also have opportunities to ask questions directly to me, but also to the girl advisors from cohort 1. They'll be joining us for that as well. So definitely sign up for this one if you're interested. But even before you sign up for this, or simultaneously when you sign up for this, check out the link that we shared earlier, which is information cohort 2 link, which has all of the documents that you need to go through. It's like simplified. It will look like a lot of documents, but it's very simplified. And then again, I don't want to talk more about it here, but I will see you on 24th. And in the meantime, you can continue sending your questions to me. Now, as excited as I am to just like celebrate this, can I now ask for the next slide up and hand back to me for the next part?
Thank you so much, Pooja, for the super exciting news. I think just for everyone information, we have been waiting for this for months now. So that day finally comes in. for us for the open call for the second cohort and to welcome new girl advisor. Super, super excited. Thank you, Pooja. And I think we have almost at the end of our session today. And for now, I also would like to invite another incredible fellow girl advisor for the closing intervention. Hi, Rusna. Hi, Rusna.
Hi.
Hi, so glad to see you again. Rusna, please share with us your hope for the next cohort and your call to action for other Girls Central organization as well.
Thank you so much for the question, Lee. First of all, I'm so thrilled to see the launch of our handbook that we have worked on for the past 5 months. We as girl advisors, we know that this has been a whole learning process. Doing the reflection work for it and condensing all that we have learned for everyone to see. Usually when engagements end, they end with final reflections and final reporting, but AGIP has provided us with the first-time experience at co-create co-creating, not just to condense or package our learning, but also to see and think about how the next cohort of girl advisors can benefit and can have an even better experience based upon our own experiences. And the reason why I bring this up is because I truly hope that more and more adolescent girls they apply for this opportunity, because I speak on behalf of all my adolescent girls when I say this will be a great experience for you. So my advice for the next cohort would just be that do not hold yourself back just because you feel intimidated, because you should enter the space with confidence and the willingness to grow. Even if you are from grassroots backgrounds, just remember that AGIP is your platform to share power in decision-making spaces. Inevitably, you might feel nervous during the initial period. I most certainly did, but just know that this is also a part of learning after all. And if you just express your concerns and seek advice regarding it from your safeguarders, from your mentors, from Pooja, from your fellow girl advisors, and even your buddies, Egypt has a great system to support us. You will find yourself with ease being able to tackle all kinds of obstacle and gradually also fitting right in. So this is from my experience. The great thing about Egypt, it understands its adolescent girls and also gives us the time to adjust. Um, and our meetings are the safest space to feel safe, to get mentored, to learn, and most importantly, to reciprocate. So, as my fellow advisor, Himana, so perfectly stated that she says, support your peer as this is a collective journey after all. I would like to bring up that this is the kind of mindset us adolescent girls are always bringing to our meetings and all of the engagements that we are having with each other. So there's truly nothing for anyone to worry about when they're applying in an opportunity as such. And finally, I just hope that this journey helps you realize that the impact of your voice and also all of the creative ideas and innovative ideas that are within you. And I hope that you carry them forward as representatives of all the adolescent girls globally, and you can also carry forward the AGAC's legacy as a whole. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rusna, for your sharing. And I think that it's super powerful. And I hope that it's going to be very helpful for the next cohort as well. And also, thank you, Rusna, for also being a very dedicated member at AGAC for the last 2 years as well. You also inspire me a lot. Thanks, Rutna, once again. And now I also would like to invite all of the participants to join our one final Zoom poll. And you will see the question pop up on your screens now. And the question is, what is your one key takeaway from the Adolescent Girls Advisory Committee handbook in terms of including adolescent girls in your organization decision-making space? And you can enter your answer at the poll now. All right, all right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your takeaway and enthusiasm towards the girl inclusion in decision-making space. I have learned a lot from everyone for today, on the speakers and also the participants as well for your questions. And with this, I also would like to congratulate all of us for AGIP and AGAC for completing an incredible 2-year term. And also thank you very much for your hard work and for believing in what we have been doing. And to be honest, I've been always proud to be part of this team with these amazing people, I have to say. And also would like to quickly thanks the interpreters for today's session as well, Zadie and Vinod, for your support. And yeah, thank you very much, everyone. And I now also would like to invite Miss Olivia Burns, our AG project manager at Plan International, for the final closing.
Thank you, Nee. You've done an absolutely golden job of facilitating this session. And it's been such a joyful webinar with so much emotion as well. So thank you to everybody who's spoken and who's joined. I wanted to just give a really special thank you at the end of this to Pooja, who has been with AGAC since the very, very beginning. And she has led this cohort with such amazing efficiency, but also importantly, with so much empathy. And she has also been the one coordinating on creating this handbook with AGAC. So thank you to all of our wonderful, wonderful girl advisors. And thank you to Pooja for being so instrumental in the success of the first cohort. And with that, we're at the end of our event. I'm very, very sad to say. So thank you all so much for coming, and good luck to our girl advisors. We cannot wait to see what amazing things that you go on to do. So thank you all, and bye-bye.